I'm Molly, a licensed insolvency practitioner at Parker Walsh, and in this video we're going to be looking at Company Voluntary Arrangements, known as CVAs. So what are they, what's the process, and who benefits from them? So a Company Voluntary Arrangement, CVA, is a debt repayment plan, and it's a formal insolvency procedure, and typically it's a monthly amount paid over to the supervisor, which would be myself, paid over each month from the company's profits, and that would build up each month, and then eventually the supervisor would distribute it to the creditors. CVAs commonly last between 3 to 5 years. Now that's a typical CVA. Sometimes you get a CVA where it's not monthly contributions, but it's say a third-party contribution. A connected party pays money in, that gets distributed to the creditors. Now sometimes, and usually, creditors don't get 100p in the pound back. They may have to take a lower amount, but that might still be better than if the company were to be liquidated. This is quite common when the company's assets, say tangible assets, aren't worth that much, and the main asset of the company is the money that it makes, and in which case a CVA would be better than a liquidation scenario. So creditors might accept a CVA. So the way the process works is you would contact someone like myself, a licensed insolvency practitioner, and we would review the company's financial records. We'd work with you and the accountant to get them prepared, and we would look at, say, a cash flow forecast, statement of affairs, which is the assets and the company's liabilities, and other financial records, and we would check that it is viable, that going forward you would be able to make a profit each month that would form into the CVA. Now, I understand that it can sound sort of ridiculous that you're in this insolvency situation, you can't pay your creditors, and then you're thinking, well, I've got to pay money on top of all of that into the CVA arrangement. But just remember that you won't be paying any of the historic liabilities, only the ones that are ongoing. So looking at it like that, essentially taking all the historic liabilities that you might be trying to pay off here and there, that all forms part of the CVA scenario, and then you trade essentially as a clean slate going forward, just making sure ongoing liabilities are paid, and then that contribution comes into the CVA proposal, and we check that it is viable, that is going to happen. There's no point entering into a CVA and doing all of this if you're going to just fail after, say, 3 or 6 months. So the insolvency practitioner has to do their own research into the company and check that you are viable for it. They will also speak to the creditors and the shareholders, if that's different to the directors, just to make sure that the creditors are on board. Again, you don't want to be proposing something to creditors and they just reject it. Maybe you've entered into so many repayment plans with them in the past that they're a little bit sceptical as to this one. Or for whatever reason they may just have no patience and just want the company to stop trading, in which case there's little point in proposing a CVA. So that's why it's important for the licensed insolvency practitioner to contact the creditors beforehand to make sure that there is an appetite for it. And once all the research has been done and the proposals have been drafted, so that's something that would be carried out, say, by myself and my team. We would draft the proposals and they go out to the creditors. Now the proposals are essentially a big document that goes out to creditors that lists the company's financial position, but what it is proposing. And it gives you also a history as to what's happened to the company, why has it got in this position, and why does it think going forward it's going to be able to trade profitably. It will also compare it to the other options available, like I said, liquidation, and you might be able to see that although you don't really have the trust that the company can continue to trade, as I said, there might have been a broken repayment plan in the past, but then you look at the comparison to a liquidation and you're definitely not going to get any money, then all of a sudden the creditor might consider accepting the proposals. So it's a very carefully considered document that has to go out, and it has to illustrate to creditors that the CVA is the best scenario for them to accept and get the most dividend back. So the proposals go out, and then there's a creditors meeting where everyone gets to vote, and it's based off their percentage in value. And then if we've got 75% or more agreeing to it, then the CVA is approved, and someone like myself would be the supervisor, and we would make sure and monitor that the monthly repayments are coming in. So who benefits from a CVA? Well, the company does, because it gets to continue to trade. You know, with liquidation, where that's a shutdown procedure, or an administration selling the business onto someone else, the company stays in its current position with the same management and the same employees. So it benefits the company, it benefits the creditors as well, because it will be a better scenario than a liquidation or, say, an administration. And you're going to receive the benefit of the company trading, rather than if it was liquidated, shut down, and the assets sold at auction, and maybe you might not get that much for it. So a CVA can benefit the creditors. It also benefits the employees. It keeps them in work, and as we know, times are difficult at the moment, so this is also an advantage, that it's keeping everyone employed within its current within the company in its current position. So CVAs are a useful tool. I think if you're if you're struggling with cash flow in your company at the moment, but you know it is a viable business, please get in touch with me, and we can just run through it and see if you're eligible for the CVA, and it might be something that can really help you. Okay, so I hope that's helped. I hope that's given a good description as to what a CVA is and how it can benefit essentially the company, the employees, and the creditors. Okay, thank you.